Do you ever feel that the Facebook algorithm can read your mind? Workbench with drawers? I mean, who doesn't want that? But I got there and wow, this was something more than I ever thought. I mean, sitting in an old shed with tons of spider webs, sawdust. It still had stuff in it. It had things sitting on top of it. So they got it emptied out. We tried to get the leaf blower and blow it off, but the leaf blower was out of gas. So I had to bring it home in that condition full of spiders. And so I spent about 2 hours. You could see I was vacuuming everything out. I spent about 2 hours vacuuming, wiping everything down. I was just spraying the back of it with Home Defense, which is like a pest deterrent, so I don't get any more spiders inside there. And here it is. This is its current state. The first thing I knew I needed to do was go to Home Depot and have them cut some plywood for me. And I had to get 2 full sheets because I needed to create a new top and a new bottom. So I quickly got that home. I mean, I could not wait to start working on this. So this is as soon as I got it cleaned up and all of the Home Defense had dried, I ran to Home Depot. Here's my first piece of plywood. Now I flipped this upside down because everything's open. I don't know if you just saw what I was doing there, but when I flipped it open, it's just a frame. So there we go. You can see how open everything is. No wonder it was full of spiders. I mean, this was like a spider breeding farm. My first piece of plywood is to enclose the bottom, and I cut it to the exact dimensions of the cabinet, and then I'm just going around and putting screws in to secure it because I want to create a nice solid base for this. This is solid already. It's made probably 50 or 60 years ago. It is plywood, but it is solid 3/4 inch plywood. So it's nice and sturdy, and I needed that to add these big casters. Now these happen to be casters that I just had on hand, and I've been waiting for the right application to use them, and here it is. I would have loved if I had some that were locking, but again, I had these in a drawer. I was going to use them for another project and didn't, so I love to recycle things, and I'm finally like, yes, I've been saving these for the last 4 years, and I finally have a way to use them. So I added them to the bottom. So plywood went on, new casters, and this thing rolls so easy. Well, the drawers aren't in it because it's heavy. All those drawers go in, and I was having a hard time getting it in and out of the truck. So we had to take all the drawers out to move it. I also want to enclose the back. So I got some backer board. This is off of an old 1976 dresser. There's a stamp on it. I'm using old stuff all the time. I recycle things. So I cut it to the size that I needed. This is not a full sheet, so I couldn't do every bit of it, but there's so many little cross bars on this for the drawer supports that I didn't feel I needed to have a full sheet. It's not going to be as pretty as one of my dressers would be, but I don't care. It's just in my workshop. So I'm reusing what I already have on hand. I got the biggest part done, and now I'm just cutting another little piece there for the end to get it all filled in. Are they going to match? Nope. Do I care? Not at all. I just want to get this closed in. This part sits against the wall anyway. So I moved that over a little bit so I can see where all of the crossbars are because I'm about to staple this to the cabinet, and I've just got a little corded staple gun. And I'm just going to go all the way around it, stapling. So once I got the big piece all attached, put the little one over there, do the same thing. And now this has a solid bottom and a enclosed back. I'm way ahead of where I was already. And it rolls like magic. I wish everything rolled like this. Time to address the drawers. Now, there's 20 drawers. And flathead screws, my favorite. These little gems. Now they're really corroded. So in the shed, I didn't even really see any big doors. So I think this was exposed to a lot of weather and they were just really worn out. I got them all off of there. That took quite some time. And then I'm looking at all these labels. At some point, someone decided to label every drawer with what was inside. It's pretty fun to look at them. Eye hooks. I guess you needed a whole drawer of eye hooks, but it was interesting. I love it when people label things because I just think about the history of what was before, what was in these drawers and who was using it, how are they using it. It's pretty cool. So time to take all the labels off. I'm just using a 5-in-1 putty knife here just to get them all off. And time to sand. So I know this is just a workbench. I know this is a really old, funky workbench, but I just absolutely love it. And so I want to, make this as nice as I possibly can. It's been absolutely filthy. I want to get everything clean, and I'm going to sand every surface. So the sides of the drawers, tops of the drawers. I'm even going to do the underside where the runners are, where the sides, those guides, because I just want everything to function smoothly. So I'm just sanding the heck out of everything. And this wood is super dry. It's plywood. It's been out in the elements for I don't know how long. And so I mixed up a paint wash, and I am having to put so much paint on here because, again, it's just soaking everything up. And I decided that this is not how, it's not normally how we do paint washes where we put it on there and don't wipe it back, but this was soaking in so much, and I was fine amending the color a little bit more. So my paint wash is pretty diluted. It's probably a 10-to-1, which means I have 1 part paint and about 10 parts water. So I'm just putting it on and not wiping it back. I'm going to let it just soak in and dry. You always want these cabinets that are like tons of drawers. I'm like so excited. And then you start working on it. You're like, there's 20 drawers. It's a lot. Okay, but I also did the same thing to the cabinet. Now the top is laminate. It's a really old, funky laminate. I'm not going to take it off. I thought about just taking it off and completely replacing it, but I'm not going to. So using the same wash on everything. And finally, after doing the entire cabinet and all 20 drawers, time to put the plywood on the top. Now this was not a great idea. I'm putting it on something that's rolling. It's heavy, and I have a finished dresser right behind me. Trying to be careful. You can see it's covered up, but yeah, thankfully I didn't hit that with my plywood. Now you might be thinking, this plywood is huge for this. And you're right, it is. There's a huge overhang, and it's like that for a reason. Once I get it into the space where it's going to go, you'll totally see why I did this. And now I'm just putting top coat on over the paint wash. This first coat I'm going to just do this way, and I did not sand in between the paint wash and the top coat. I put on 1 top coat first and then sanded so that my paint wash doesn't get disturbed by all of this sanding, because plywood, when it gets wet, raises that grain and it becomes rough. Now I'm going to just slather top coat on this thing. I did the workbench right behind me a few years ago, and I probably put 10 coats of top coat on like this. I have a spreader in my hand, and I am just spreading it on thick. I want it to be super durable. I don't want to mess around with it getting stained and things. So anyway, I used an entire quart of top coat on that. And now that there's 20 drawers, there's 20 pulls. And I finally got them all unwrapped and start putting them on. Everything takes longer when you've got so many drawers, but I would never complain about having too many drawers. And I had a follower suggest the apothecary style pulls. So these cup pulls were perfect. Let's take a quick look back at where this thing started. What a mess. And here we are now. What a completely different change. Now this is something that, if you had a cool kitchen, this could even go in the kitchen. But this is going in my workshop, and I'm so excited about it. I think it really needed to just be toned down and fixed and cleaned and all the things. So now I've got to get it into my space, and you can see what I was working with before was just an old IKEA dresser, and it's been very functional for all these years, and I had this thing sitting on top as a counter to make it a little bigger, but it's time to go. So I'm gonna get that out of there, and you can see I just piled everything on top. It took me some time to figure out where I'm going to put stuff, and I have so many drawers that I still have a bunch of drawers that are empty. But they won't be for long because I love to organize. Let's take a look at where we are now. So I've got my workbench on that side. Now this one I feel like I need to do a paint wash on. Now it's easier to see why I left the overhang so much bigger, because it gave me room for the trash can in the middle rather than having to have it on the end. I'm absolutely loving how it all turned out. Would you have picked this piece up?